Today's topic is ODC, the pattern that connects tools, life, and stars. I'm David, this is Nebula the physics cat, and she's going to help us navigate through this new topic called ODC, optimally dissipative configuration. So what do we mean by this, and why haven't we heard of this before? That's a pretty good question because we are making some pretty bold claims, including the fact that any structure or configuration that you see around ever, whether it's a star, a tool, living thing, even Nebula here, who, by the way, wasn't always a large physics cat. She was once a tiny little physics cat. She very much moves in the way of the ODC like we do. But what do we mean by this, and why is it so difficult to grasp at first? So is it true that any structure or configuration, including stars, tools, and human beings, all emerged as a result of entropy? Entropy is that thing that goes towards disorder, isn't it? So it's kind of a paradox or counterintuitive that any structure should be born out of entropy. But maybe that's why it's taken so long for us to realize this. And so if the claim wasn't true, it'd be very easy to refute. All we'd have to do is find one structure or configuration or tool or system or process or idea or even consciousness and clearly show that, well, that has nothing to do with the spreading of energy and matter. So let's go see if we can make some sense of this. Because what would a new theory be if it didn't have a formula that works 100% of the time? So this is the formula that shows that ODC is the pattern that connects all tools, life, and stars. We are all made of stardust, a quote famously said by Carl Sagan is actually literally true. It's not just a pretty thing to say. So as we know, stars emerge from nebulae, planets emerge from solar systems, and if that planet is stable enough and yet has a lot of gradients for a long period of time, new things emerge out of hydrothermal vents, like new chemical gradients that can be harnessed by new, more complex structures. So this little diagram here shows a ball rolling downhill, and that's what essentially life or any structure does, even though it seems to be going against entropy, which is the second law of thermodynamics, which states that everything goes towards disorder. So how do we explain everything in this studio here, which has a lot of order, when everything's supposed to go to entropy? So that's where our law of creation formula comes in. And it might look a little daunting at first, but once we turn and adjust that lens just right, everything begins to make sense. We can start to look around and say, oh yeah, that's why that's there. And oh yeah, the reason that's there is because it's helping this. And that's why that's there, until we even get to ourselves and realize that, oh yeah, we're helping the universe break things down better than other things were. So for example, we've got all these pools of biofuel in the earth that are just waiting to be harnessed or dissipated. So it's not until humans come around that are able to dig into the earth and harness all that potential energy into the civilization that we see today. So ODC, optimally dissipative configuration, is the process by which entropy is able to form new emergent structures because it helps it move energy and material faster than if it wasn't there. So here we've got one planet and another planet. One of them has life on it, the other doesn't. And why is that? Not just because it's in the habitable zone, but why should life emerge within a planet that's in the habitable zone? Not just is it able to? And the reason is the one with the life on it is able to process things that the other one wasn't able to. So what happens is that entropy wants to spread out as fast as it can. Think of a driver on the highway that's stuck in traffic. It just wants to go, go, go. And if there's a different route it can take, it definitely will. So here our formula shows that of all the possible configurations, the one that has the highest rate of entropy, the one that's moving energy and material most efficiently, the fastest, is the one that gets picked. That's the winner. That's the argument of the maximum, which is a fancy physics term that says that the system will choose the configuration that's the winner, that's the best at energy production in this case, within the constraints of the system. Again, that might have been a lot at first, but once we break it down, we can start to see the universe come to life for us. And within this formula, we can see that the argument of the maximum is the universe choosing, picking, selecting intelligently the best configuration out of all the configurations, and that's what brings life, tools, and stars together. And the reason we use ODC, optimally dissipative configuration, even for humans and inventions, is because it also applies to molecules and atoms. So it's a universal label. But when it comes to humans and systems, the ODC optimally means the best, the foremost, the leading, the prime, the leading, the greatest. Dissipative means productive, successful, efficient, prevailing, robust. So let's say, for example, take a look at your kitchen and how it's set up. It's kind of silly to say that it's the optimally dissipative configuration. So what might sound better would be the best, most efficient design for your system, let's say. But it all means the same thing. That's why we can connect tools, life, and stars that are born out of nebulae, because the chemical systems in the nebulae make it such that all the materials and the gravity and the chemicals form stars, first generation, second generation, third generation, until they get to the level where they can produce a planet like ours. And if the conditions are right for long enough a time, then you start having these more and more complex structures, which we call life. Let's go see another example, shall we? Hi, Nebula, the physics cat. How are you doing? So here we're moving to our atomizer. And also, we've got a few things going on here. This is our wheel of ideas. So if you think that there might be something out there where it doesn't apply to ODC, a structure or a system, this wheel has about 140 prevailing systems of our universe, from physics to economics to culture, and everything in it, every configuration or structure that's ever existed does so because it's able to harness the energy of a gradient better than not. And that's how you have complex emergent structures. On a grander scale, we start here at the Big Bang, and we know that that's going towards ultimate entropy or a heat death. But as it does so, it creates galaxies. And within these galaxies, we've got nebulae and stars. And these stars will create solar systems. And sometimes on a planet, you've got even more and more complex structures. And then within the world of the humans here, we've got cars and cell phones, and even belief systems emerge, because as a result of these belief systems, the civilizations are able to survive and reproduce better than the ones that do not. So you see, ODC is a universal concept. It's a universal idea that connects all tools, stars, and life. And here what we have is a simple experiment of molecules and atoms to show how maybe the life emerged from that primordial soup. So right now they're just kind of sitting there, but we're going to apply a driving force to them, and they're going to move all around. And some of these ping pong balls have magnets on them. And so what's going to happen is, after we turn it on for about 30 seconds, new structures are going to emerge, structures that we've never seen before. Structures that are the optimally dissipative configuration within the constraints of the system. So why don't we challenge ourselves with an example of an optimally dissipative configuration that, although it seems complex, emerged as a result of a need, a gradient, for the betterment of the flow and efficiency of movement of matter or energy. So in inventions and technology, number 3, we have the smartphone. That's quite a coincidence, because we have it right up here. And so obviously that helps in our communication, it helps with our entertainment. I mean, you can't really find a human anymore without a smartphone. And for better or for worse, it helped all of those things flow at a higher rate, obviously. But it's a very complex structure, so it went against entropy, apparently, but actually on the bigger scale, it increased the entropy of the universe. So here's our atomizer, and once we turn it on, it's going to create new structures that we've never seen before, and they're more complex than what we see here. And once we turn on the atomizer, it's going to create new structures that we never saw before. So this is to represent how chaos is actually not random, and like us, the final structure will not have been intended, but the simple result of the conditions of the system. So we've never seen this one before, and this is to show that let's say in those hydrothermal vents at the center of the ocean, where a lot of chemical activity takes place, all sorts of new things are being experimented with. If you remember our formula, then that's where the molecules and atoms are trying different configurations. And so every combination possible is kind of experimented with, and once in a while something occurs that's able to actually unlock, let's say, a new process. So let's say there's a chemical gradient over here, a lot of potential energy, and in just the right configuration, this structure here will attach itself to it in a way that allows more flow of that system. And after that, there's positive feedbacks that allow it to produce more of itself. And eventually, whenever we decide, we can call it some kind of a life or protocell. So I hope you're able to start to see how we're not so disconnected from the universe as we once thought we might have been. And here we arrive at what I call the Galileo corner. Once we can get past the fact that we're not the center of the universe, this idea or concept of ODC is not that complex. It's pretty obvious. We start to look around and say, oh yeah, I see how that formed and why that formed. And our biggest hurdle is not the actual information or the concept itself. So for example, there was a time when we thought that the Earth was the center of the universe, and it fit well with our belief systems and what we could actually see from our point of view. But then somebody comes around with a telescope and takes a lot of notes and studies it for a long time and realizes, oh my goodness, no, not only are we not the center of the universe, but we're going around our one star, the sun, and there's billions of other stars out there and probably billions of other planets. And it was controversial at first because it didn't go quite in line with the prevailing belief systems of the time, but we got over it, and it turns out that those civilizations that adopt the new science and the new truths are better able to survive and reproduce than the ones that were not. So ultimately, science becomes incorporated in the new belief system, including ODC, optimally dissipative configuration. Imagine a world where we're not fighting over our stories or interpretations of how and why we're here. Today, science does have a say in how and why we're here, where for the longest time, only belief systems and philosophy were in that narrative. And today, I think we can confidently be part of that conversation and say, well, from a scientific point of view, here's how and why we're here. Ooh, this fire is nice. It's getting chilly out there, huh, kitty? And I've written and illustrated about a dozen books, including this one, Entropy's Inventions, that talks more about how tools, life, and stars are actually connected and how they were formed and why. So on behalf of myself and Nebula the Physics Cat, thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon at Law of Creation.